Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I'm Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie Guy.
Hello.
Hello Ollie, another week, just us today, and we are going to be talking about what is a fan favourite game in at least our community. I guess we don't know how wide that's going to spread throughout the general gaming community. But that's a game called Pikmin 4.
Pikmin 4. I mean, this has been 10 years since Pikmin 3. Can you believe? Did you play any of the other Pikmin games?
This is my first time playing anything Pikmin, or even really fully understanding what Pikmin is.
Oh, well. Do you remember when we... I don't know if you remember this, but when we went to Bristol, I downloaded the Pikmin walking game, Pikmin Bloom.
Yeah, I remember we've discussed Pikmin Bloom a bit as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the tutorial twice, and then it wouldn't end, so I just uninstalled it. So I was thinking, you saw Pikmin then? That's the last time you saw it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, obviously, I'm a gamer. I am, picked up, I've seen trailers in shows of things. I understood it was little people picking up things. I understood that, but that was about all I knew. But yeah, do you want to set up what Pikmin 4 is? Do you want to read kind of the summary?
I will do. The official line is Pikmin 4 is a real-time strategy game developed and published by Nintendo. It is the fourth main installment of the Pikmin series following Pikmin 3 in 2013 and the sixth installment overall. It was released on the Nintendo Switch on July 21st, 2023. The player controls a minuscule character who takes command of squads of Pikmin to explore various areas, fight enemies, secure treasures, and solve puzzles. Pikmin can be directed to perform various tasks, such as carrying objects and fighting enemies, and have individual weaknesses and strengths. Okay,
and so, to get this right, so Pikmin 1 and 2 are both GameCube, is that right?
Both GameCube.
Then 3 is Wii U, and then now, and then this one. So which one of those have you played, if any?
I've played a lot of Pikmin 3. But that's the only one I played before this. But all of them have had very good ports. So they all got ported to the Wii. Well, 1 and 2 got ported to the Wii with a new control scheme where you use the Wii pointer to aim where to throw them. Yep. And then I think they also got ported to the Wii U where maybe you could use the stylus on the little... God, that seems like an age ago, doesn't it? That console. You could use the stylus to
It's
throw
funny
them.
because it's you could do all of that stuff that was this is the thing you could do in the Wii U. You could do it on Switch with the touchscreen, but we don't want to do that. That's the thing, Nintendo. We could, we don't want to.
So those versions then came to the Switch as well, but they added the Wii gameplay, because obviously the Joy-Cons. Mm-hmm. They didn't bother with the touchscreen stuff for the Pikmin 3, as far as I know. And now here we are, 2023, Pikmin 4.
Okay. So I guess it's probably not a big surprise that this was your choice of game. So other than the fact that it's a big kind of recent release coming out, why did you choose Pikmin 4 for the podcast?
I really like Pikmin 3 and I never finished it. And I was thinking about playing Pikmin 3 again when they announced they were all coming back. And then I was like, well, why not just get the new one? And also there was another thing me and you talked about that was we really neglected Nintendo for a long time.
Yeah,
we've done loads of Nintendo games.
We're in a big way making up for it now.
Yeah, we are making up for it now because we accidentally neglected them for so long. And also, it's just it's nice and charming, right?
Yeah. It'll be a nice there's a nice contrast to upcoming games. The next two games are quite serious, both of them in different ways. So enjoy the lighthearted Pikmin 4 while it's here. So it's actually nice that you have played one of the older ones, even if it is only Pikmin 3. Is this because Pikmin 4, we don't know exact sales numbers, but it's been a big success. Obviously, Switch is such a behemoth. It's kind of elevating every franchise. Every Animal Crossing is the best-selling one. Mario Kart, all of their big franchises are the biggest. Splatoon has never been bigger than now it's on the Switch. So is this an evolution as well? Is that why this one's become so popular? Or is it just, now people are playing it on a popular console?
I think it's because it's so much easier. It is so easy compared to other Pikmin games. In this game, if you ever have, you probably had it a few times where you'll get hit by lightning or fire and all of your Pikmin will be running around, all 100 of them. That happens a lot in the other games, and Pikmin die left, right, and centre. It's incredibly relaxing, the old Pikmin games, for the first 20 minutes, and then it's literally you need to get your brain in gear because otherwise you're going to lose all of your guys. And also the older Pikmin 3, definitely, you could control like 3 characters and you could send them off on their own. You would like draw a route for them and be like, okay, you go over there and deal with them with those Pikmin. And this kind of throws all that away and is more like
you
your
can,
one
you can
solid
have one
unit.
character you can do that with, but it never feels like essential. Like your dog, like Ochi, like you can say, go gather up Pikmin for me, or go like dig this or whatever. But like I tended to use him more as a mount and just ride around him the whole time.
And also like he can swim and he can headbutt, which are things that you couldn't do before. So it was like, if you run into, because you know how your character runs on the bottom of the water?
Yeah.
Like if you were running into water with Pikmin, they would just die unless they were blue. So it was like, it was a lot more, intense. But yeah, I think critically, like as in the reviewers and stuff have said that they enjoy the like much more relaxing pace of the game as opposed to it being, because like Pikmin 1, you had to collect 30 treasures in 30 days. And if you didn't do it, you'd lose the game.
Yeah,
like,
and wouldn't it just be like
hardcore?
You basically would you like start the game again, or would you be able to choose which day to go back to? Because that's one of the things that I've heard just from like listening to podcasts and stuff talking about this game is like some people are like missing that stuff, and some people, but most of them are saying that's nice that stress has gone. Like, do you know kind of how they handle that? Would you just be like start the game again and be better?
I'm not sure, because the one that I played, so 3 has the same daytime timer, but it doesn't have an overall. It's the same as this, really. So you have as much time as you want to go and get your stuff. But I don't know, maybe it's a bit like Dead Rising. Like if you just fail, you're done.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard. But I get it, though. Like I get why this one is popular because, so I played I finished this game in 14 hours. So I played up to the credits and then I looked at the next level because I was curious. You did the same, right?
Yeah, I actually ended up I did just enough of the next level to just see the next level because I was curious what it was going to be. So I poked my nose into what I think is the final level. There might be another one after.
Oh, okay. Nice. So I did it in 14 hours and I did 10 hours of it in co-op. It breaks it down for you.
Yeah.
And like, so I played it with my girlfriend, Bryony, and she like loved it because it's like so charming and so nice and so cute. And I can see now why making it easier was probably a good idea. Because it's like, I couldn't imagine if she tried to get into it before and it was just like the most brutally hard game that Nintendo probably ever put out.
As someone who played 3 before, like, did they go too far making it easier? Like, is it significantly easy? Like how for you? Like, this isn't we're saying if it's a good or bad thing, but for you, did you find it too easy?
I would say yes, far too easy, especially in co-op. Co-op is very easy. So co-op works a bit differently than you'd expect. So Bryony basically had a light gun and could shoot the screen, but only with the power of like one Pikmin. So not like she couldn't do loads of damage or anything. And she could also like lob items. So like what we found worked really well is I'd get her to lob a carrot, like I would be in hiding. So it's like some bait for an enemy. Then the enemy would chase it, eat the carrot and get paralyzed. And then I would send all the Pikmin out and it would kill them. And we used that tactic through the entire game and we didn't have to change it once because it's that powerful. Also, I know there's like a rewind and I didn't ever have to use it. I never even clicked on it. I don't know how it works. So
I can tell you that happened to me.
Yeah.
I can't remember specifically. Hopefully I'll be able to find some footage of it. But I think it happened to me in a cave where it got to a point where like, because... Yeah, well, we'll get into the weeds a little bit later on, but basically you're collecting Pikmin and you'll be like, I've got 50 of whatever color type. And sometimes you collect an onion, which will basically mean you can essentially respawn infinite of that. So at some points you kind of have like, some Pikmin are quite valuable because it's like, I haven't got the onion yet. Like I've only got like 15 rock Pikmin. If they die, like I'm done for. And so when you're in a cave, if like if they die, then it'll be like, this is basically uncompletable. Do you want to rewind? And it will give you a choice of like back to that floor or the beginning of the cave, and it will be, or even if it's a case where just a bunch die for whatever reason. Usually it would happen where I am neglecting them, and I'll be like telling them to carry a giant thing, and it'd be like loads of them carrying, but I wouldn't have checked their route back, and then they're like, there's like a room full of monsters, and they're just there like heave-hoeing a big pear through, like, ha, 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 and they're just getting slaughtered, and they're like determined to carry the pear, and then I'm like, and they'd be like, oh, that's a lot of Pikmin to die, will pop up on screen. I'm like, oh, is it? Like, what's happening? So, but then it is nice that they do give you that option to rewind, because you know, I do agree with you, the game is quite easy, but it's just those few few rare moments of neglect where it could suddenly be very punishing, and they kind of smooth that edge off for you.
Yeah, the other thing that's new is all of the like little gadgets and items and leveling up, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't do that. The other ones were much more like you have what you have. You can do everything you need to do at the beginning of the game. You have all of your moves already, all of your gadgets. You don't get anything new. Whereas this one kind of reminded me of another game that we've done on the list that comes up quite a lot that you might be able to guess.
I'm not. I mean, just by you saying it coming up a lot, I'm thinking either Death Stranding or Prey, but I don't know. Like a lot of games, is it one of those?
It's Death Stranding.
It didn't really remind me of either of them, so I was taken aback. Why is this like Death Stranding?
All of the little gadgets and stuff that you get that just like, that makes that a little bit easier, and you manufacture them.
Do you mean like your straight upgrades, or like, because it's mainly throwing like bombs and, as you said, like carrots and stuff. It's more like consumables, so you get, like, stuff mostly.
The one that calls them back to where you are.
Yeah.
And then you get like the drone, and then you get the one, you can get the charge attack, and like obviously leveling up Ochi and everything as well. Like you're kind of making your journey easier every time you go back. Yeah.
It's much more like you gaining an ability. Like when I think of Death Stranding, I think of like building infrastructure, which is really the point of the game. And it's like, like I'm getting to an area and I'm going to put out all of these zip lines and catapults and, build these vehicles to make it easier. Whereas these much more feel like it's just I'm powering up me as a character, which is why I didn't make that connection.
The previous ones, like you would be setting up infrastructure more like, I don't know if you noticed, but when you throw Pikmin at the spicy berries and they bring them back, they run back to the spicy berries
and
again.
Just chill out there.
Yeah, because really if you think in the old game, you need stuff like that more often, so you would throw them at the beginning and then just leave them there all day, and they would run back and forth.
And just keep collecting them.
Keep making, so you start to make a network of like, these guys pick up the pucks and bring them back, so I get more Pikmin. But this game is so easy, you don't really need...
Yeah, I wish there was more of that. I wish there was like, think of another game in the list, Warcraft 2, and you're like sending the little minions out to collect gold or cut down trees, and they'll keep doing it. Like, I wish there was more of that.
Well, yeah, you got to think, like, if there's a pile of 15 gold, you don't have to necessarily use 15 Pikmin. You could use one, and then just come back to them. Yeah, and then they go back and forth. Right, but then there's never much reason to not just send them. There isn't.
Especially when you get the thing where you can just call them back to your location. Because at first I'd be trying to be efficient, like, I'm going to send them to bring the gold back, and then they're going to stay at the base. And so I'd plan a route, so I would loop back to the base. And then once you could either send your dog to collect them or just send them to go back to your location, then I was like, well, there's no downside to just sending them all to do it. So I'm going to call them all straight back here anyway. Yeah, towards the end, every single thing I needed to pick up, like enemy or treasure, I would just do the command that sends all of them. And then the ones that weren't needed would come back to me anyway. Yeah. So I would just run and just be like, just the horn. Just be like doing it like absolutely everything. I feel like we're being a bit negative though at the moment. Well, I think we were kind of naturally talking about the comparison with Pikmin 3, and I think it being easier. Well, I think we're still on that. So like one other thing about the difficulty of the game is, you kind of mentioned it a bit with combat, where you could kind of not cheese, but like there was one strategy and the game never gave a twist where that strategy wouldn't work. There's so many different types of monsters, and some will look similar, and it's like, this is the orange one or the red one, or this is like this crazy thing, and so rarely would like just charging at it and making all your Pikmin jump on, and then like, especially if you have ice ones and then they freeze it as well. Yeah. Like it was very rare for that strategy not to work, and then you could use the spicy thing to speed up their attack, which would guarantee it. And that's, you don't even have to think about using bombs or anything to kill them. Like it was extreme. It was only if there was like a proper environmental challenge, like the floor was electrified or poisoned or something, where I couldn't step on it. Like apart from that, that was my strategy for combat, and it was like fine for like 95%. So like I always felt like I was losing something there.
What about that? There's a cave that you definitely did where you can only take in blue Pikmin, but it's a fire cave.
Yeah.
What did you do then? Because your Pikmin surely would just die on impact, whereas I had a light gun with me, so I just had someone shooting them.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I've got the footage. I'm trying to remember. So obviously you can always bring out, unless they limit it, you can always bring out the cave Pikmin, which I think don't take any elemental damage. I'm not sure if I did that. Or maybe I used Ochi, probably. Maybe I just controlled Ochi, because you could buy, as I say, upgrades so he wouldn't get hurt by fire and stuff to clear out the fire. is possibly how I did it.
Yeah, fair enough. I've got a feeling that
I'm guessing what I would do. Like the footage will be up, and I'll be there doing like this crazy like technique. But like that's what I'm thinking is how I would tackle it. Is maybe one of those options.
I've got a feeling we're going to get loads of comments saying like, "Oh, it was too easy because you didn't do the post-credit stuff."
I did.
I got a feeling that's what
I did. I looked at it about that.
But also, I did 14 hours. That's enough. I'm done.
And also, like, too easy is like so subjective. And like, I think in some elements, like the fact that you do a lot of combat, but you can kind of do the same thing, that I felt too easy. But like in terms of just the general gameplay and going out and collecting things and stuff, like it's not difficult, but like it being easy wasn't a negative there. Like it was still satisfying, and like the challenge was like, okay, sure, you can do it, but can you do it as efficiently as possible? You know, are you using Dandori? I guess we're talking about Dandori in a little bit. So you kind of, it's like, how much can you get done in a day? And I could say the game's easy, but it's like, yeah, but a better player would have done more that day. So that's the challenge isn't really needed in that same way, I think, on this game. So let's get on to the positive stuff. So let's talk about the general concept of the game, and let's talk about Dandori then. Seeing as I said a strange word that not everyone will know.
Dandori is basically their word. I don't know if it's the Japanese word or their word.
It's real.
Like,
it's real. I checked.
It's real.
It's a real word.
So it's for like planning and moving efficiently. So a real life example would be you got to take a cup to the kitchen. So you pick it up on your way rather than going to the kitchen and coming back for it. That would be a real life Dandori. I've been using Dandori in my everyday life, if you couldn't tell. From that incredibly boring example.
Wait, let me just check on your screen. Can't see any cups, it seems. Yeah. Can confirm.
But that's also what reminded me of Death Stranding, was all that Dandori stuff, and the emphasis on planning ahead and doing things efficiently was also very Death Stranding like. But yeah, so the gameplay, I guess we haven't really properly gone into it. You're essentially you have this ship, and you're like you're a miniature person, but you're on Earth, and you're basically running out of the ship and looking for sparkly objects to carry back. And it will be like, this sparkly object requires 18 Pikmin, so then you have to go there with your 18 Pikmin, pick them up, pick the object up and bring it back to your ship safely, because there'll be things that are trying to either kill you or eat your Pikmin on the way, or there'll be like water hazards, or I don't know, gates that are in the way, things like that. That is essentially how the game works, as far as I've played, which is to the credits. But yeah, like, it's a very fun game, and discovering the objects and the enemies and the environments, I think, makes up for the fact that it's so easy. Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, like, that is the core, is bringing back treasures. We kind of mentioned then there are a bunch of enemies that you kind of take out and try and bring back. And then, you know, things like you might need to build a bridge, so you're collecting materials, and then you do have a decision to make. Do I use those materials to upgrade myself? But then I might not be able to afford to do a bridge, and not all of the bridges seem necessary. Sometimes they're shortcuts. And then you also go down into caves, which once again I already mentioned a bit earlier, and they're a little bit different, where you will... It's a lot more contained. You're kind of going through floors, and they're much more like little contained puzzle levels. And like they often will have a theme, like this is the dark level, this is the one with a bunch of fans that you got to blow your Pikmin around, and it kind of allows them to go a little bit crazier and more abstract with their design. And then there'll be a boss fight at the end of it, and then you're usually rescuing a person, which is kind of your main goal, is to kind of rescue a bunch of NPCs. And then you're going to have a little hub as well, and all the people you've collected will end up back at your hub, and you can talk to them. Some of them will have missions for you, but most of them will have just like little silly bits of dialogue kind of talking about why they ended up where they were. Yeah. I don't know what I make of that whole hub business. I don't know if it's worth... I sort of stopped talking to people after the first couple, because I was like, you're not really giving me anything. And the ones that I did clear missions for, they were like, oh, here's 20 material. And it's like, I could get that easy. Like, in the level, there's piles of like 25. So it's like, don't even worry about it, mate. Like, it's not even worth me talking to you. Especially because I was playing in co-op. So when I was doing that stuff, Bryony couldn't do anything because she couldn't shoot. Yeah,
of course, so,
the only thing she could do was shoot my space helmet, which made like a funny noise when it bounced off, like a glass noise. But so that's,
Yeah,
so
I didn't engage. Like, I wasn't talking to every person I brought back, but I liked the idea of the hub. I liked when it's a new day and it will like play like the horns, like saying it's a new day, and everyone, and like if you've healed someone, everyone kind of gathers round to like see who they're gonna be. And then it also like, in terms of utility, it's a place where you can practice a bunch of things. It's where you do your upgrades. It's where, like, if you need to get more Pikmin of a certain type, you can kind of do it safely without a time limit. It's a way you can kind of look through like an encyclopedia of all the things you've collected. So I always do like that in the games, but like you don't have to engage with it. Like, it's not anything that's going to waste your time. Like, you can skip through a couple lines of dialogue and go straight into a level. So I am glad that it's there.
Yeah, also the game, I think, like, is very snappy. Like, when it wants to be, it can be really fast. Like, the animation for moving your base, like moving the onion base in the level, is so quick. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, thank God, because I'm going to be doing that so many times.
It's very un-Nintendo. Like,
yeah.
like, as someone who's been playing it back to back with Zelda, like Tears of the Kingdom, which I think is really bad with that. Like, say if you want to upgrade a bunch of like your armor at the same time, and it's like, let me upgrade your armor, and then skip through the dialogue, it starts doing an animation that you go to skip, and it's like, oh, I have upgraded that. Do you want anything else to be upgraded? And it's like, yes, let me just select this, and do it. You're like, that's a game which is, really slowing you down at every point when you're trying to engage. Whereas I think with this game, it has long load times, like even for a Switch game, notably long load times. But once you're in, like, you're kind of in, and then there isn't really much hanging you up.
Yeah, I mean, the load times are long, but maybe that's because the graphics are so good. How did they pull this off? Like, it looks very, very nice for a Switch game, I think.
Yeah, do you want to go and describe the art style? Because it is, once again, a little bit different from most Nintendo games.
Yeah, it just looks real.
Yeah.
Except for the Pikmin, but it looks real. And also the fact that the Pikmin, I'm assuming that's quite difficult to do because there could be 100 of them running around at the same time, as well as any enemies or anything else on the screen. And
it's not like crowd tech. They're like, I mean, I'm sure there is some, but they're individuals. You could send each individual one somewhere. It's not like, here's a group of Pikmin that you move together. Like, you could send them all in different places. They all have individual pathfinding, which is good. Like, the pathfinding is excellent. If it wasn't, it could be a much more frustrating game than it is. But yeah, the game, like, because obviously you're so small, you're looking really close at like real world objects, and a lot of them are like things like fruit and stuff, but then there's like a Game Boy Advanced or like D&D dice and stuff, so you're really like getting to look at this stuff and find detail. So it kind of, to do that art style, it had to look good.
Yeah, that's another new thing as well, actually. The camera in this one is so much lower. It used to be like I don't know, isometric, like Diablo or something, and they've moved it right down. To be honest with you, the light gun is a lot more effective if you pull the camera up, so whenever we got into like a big fight, I would move it up. Also, just stop me from spinning the camera around all the time, because it doesn't make it very easy to shoot. It's weird that I did it in co-op, because the whole thing is about like lighting up shots and stuff like that obviously didn't apply to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched the Digital Foundry video on the graphics, and they said that basically the depth of field effect around the edge of the lens is like doing a lot of work, because like the stuff behind that effect is really low res, but you can't tell because obviously the camera effect is there. So, but yeah, I mean, it shows that they can do it if they want to do it on the Switch, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, because I was worried about the game, because I remember seeing like a lot of the trailers and stuff, and they always looked really bad. It always looked really choppy, and I don't know if maybe it's because they're just showing an early build, and Nintendo always want to be like honest and not show a projection of what they hope it would be. You know, like most developers, it will be like, yeah, here's the game coming out on PS5, but here's like the PC footage as it is, right now, like, whereas I think Nintendo aren't doing that. Or maybe it was just their streams or whatever, and I remember being a little bit like, oh, that doesn't look great. Like, I think just as a game, it doesn't showcase well unless you play it. Like, because it's really hard to sum up why it's fun. And like that, this is why, like, when Ollie recommended playing Pikmin 4, I think my exact words were like, we can do that if you want. Like, I'm not going to veto that. That's fine. But I have like no enthusiasm. And then I got to be honest, at the beginning of the game, it's got a pretty lengthy kind of tutorialization and just a lot of dialogue before you get into it. And I was getting a little bit like, I've been so negative on the podcast recently. I was so worried about it. But then once it opened up, it actually gives you a surprisingly huge amount of freedom to go to like, it's not even just a list of levels. You can return to levels and go back to them and do multiple different things at any given time. And it's actually like, I almost feel like this is a game about having too much to do. And that's with a Dandori. It's like you load into a level and you're just like, you fly the drone up and it's like, well, I have so many different directions. Like I could not have even gone to this level. I could have done a night level. We'll talk about them later. And I was actually kind of thinking, how did Ollie handle that? Because this is like, you talk about this in games where you get to a fork in a road in a game and then you just like start sweating and turn the game. Like, were you okay with the amount of freedom it gave you?
I was just going for the stars on the map. I'm like, whichever star is closest, we go there. We get that, and then we bring it back. And then when it came to the caves, I would kill everything, and then I would go and pick everything up.
That's really bad Dandori.
I know, but like, it's just less stress, isn't it? But having Bridie was really good because her light gun has a crosshair as well, so she'd be like, "Oh, go up there," and like
it's like a laser pointer.
Yeah, literally like
so
pointing.
Let me bring
like,
your attention to this treasure, like pointing at the
genuinely like that. And like she was also really good at spotting when stuff was buried. So like obviously keeping an eye on the treasure tracker thing, and it would ping up, and I wouldn't notice. And she'd be like, "Oh, you go back there." And then I would just spin around throwing Pikmin until one of them starts like swinging its head, like digging. The other thing as well about it is like, yeah, seeing the levels is great. Seeing the enemies is great. Seeing the treasures is great. But also the Pikmin are just like fun to play with.
Yeah.
And like they're a really great, I think they're a really great character. Like if you think of them as one, I think they're just incredibly charming.
Yeah, they always have like nice little intros when they pop up, which is for someone who's new to Pikmin and having no idea.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's new Pikmin in this game that haven't been in other old ones.
Yeah, I think Ice and the Night ones are new.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other new ones, but they always add like a couple every time. So, but yeah, no, it's nice, and also the fact that they say hello when you pull them out of the ground.
Yeah, I think that like, even just that animation of plucking them out of the ground is so good. I think I think it's like this. We're going to be the first people to talk about this feature in a long time, but the HD rumble of the
I've got it switched off. I've got it switched off.
Oh no, it was so because it's not like it's like rumbling a lot, but like say even like when your Pikmin are jumping back onto Oach. So if you're riding around on your dog, they can kind of like jump up, and sometimes they're in little groups, but it'll do like a little micro vibrate as each one lands, and when you're throwing them, like
nice.
The HD rumble throughout like the game is done really well, and for me, I think it added a lot. It's a shame you didn't feel that.
I also played with a Pro controller, so I didn't have the. I don't think I would have it anyway.
I was just two Joy-Cons playing. So.
Yeah, the thing is with HD Rumble is like, it's going to make me sound so boring, but like it was too loud, so I just turned it off. Like it would be louder than, if I'm playing at night, it'd be louder than the game. So I was like, I'm just going to turn it off, and then I've just never turned it back on.
We didn't do the thing that like most games do with just one big rumble. The amount of times I'm like, I put a controller down and I'm watching a cutscene, then I suddenly hear my controller go, brrr. It's like, that's not doing anything, but it was the little tiny touches that I think really helped it. I think the only thing with the visual, I think that looks amazing. I think the lighting goes a long way. The shadows are like surprisingly crisp. But I think the one place where you can kind of really see the difference between this being a Switch game to a modern game is like things like say if you're looking at like a brick wall, the fact that it's completely flat. And I feel like a lot of games that, and I think they do it with kind of like shader tricks rather than geometry. Like there's ways they do it, like to like, I mean, I guess Bloodborne's a good comparison for those who've been watching that. Like they got the cobbled streets and each brick looks individual. Whereas I feel like if this game did come out on slightly more powerful hardware, when you're close to that brick wall, you could see individual bricks. And so some things that like when you can look and you can tell, oh, this is meant to be bumpy or more like textured, and then it is completely flat. There were the few times where I felt like, oh, the Switch is holding it back. But like the rest of the time, I was like, yeah, no, this Switch is perfect for this. Like I'm not lacking anything.
Yeah, fair. Sort of on that, we have a question from or I might say your name wrong, the Diaxo on Discord. Said, would you have preferred the game's setting of Earth and going around places like gardens and living rooms as a small creature, or would you have preferred to go around a new planet or location?
I think 100% Earth. I think completely. Same. Yeah, like because that's what makes it interesting. If it's like, oh, you're picking up the glob glob fruits, it's like, well, I don't know what a glob glob fruit is, let alone me being tiny. Like, I mean, my favorite level. I mean, I don't even know if it's my favorite level gameplay wise, but it's become my same favorite level because just the setting is when you're in the house and you're like jumping over the sofa and the tabletops and stuff. Like that is just really, really fun. I think I just wish there was more of that. Like I think I think I played 7 levels overall, and like one stands out because it's that, and I think another one, the seaside one, stands out a little bit. But like,
that's nice. That one.
Seen as they were gonna do like inside, like why aren't they doing like a rooftop garden or like a school or like a workshop? Like I wish there was more places like that. Whereas it's a lot of garden or woodland, which from that perspective isn't very different.
Yeah. Did you notice that one of the caves was in an aquarium?
Yeah, like it's really weird,
awesome.
isn't it?
That
like
was my favourite bit, yeah.
The kind of skybox, I guess.
Yeah, like seeing the boundary of the aquarium, and then like, because Bridie was like, "Oh, we're in an aquarium," and I was like, "No." Yeah. And I looked up and I was like, "Oh, actually, I think we might be." Like, that was super cool. Yeah, more stuff like that would be good. I think the previous Pikmin games, they were kind of coy about whether or not it was set on Earth, and they were like, "Oh, it's a mysterious planet," and you never went into any houses.
Yeah.
I think on Pikmin 3 there was a multiplayer map that was set in a house, but it was mostly like in the woods, and then obviously the creatures are like not from Earth, so you wouldn't know where they were. But I remember on Pikmin 2 you could pick up Duracell batteries, so that was always the like, it must be on Earth.
That's gotta be like was that like a branding deal then, right? If
yeah,
it's
I
like
think so.
Duracell,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
Yeah, it was literally Duracell, exactly. But no, being on Earth was the coolest thing. Like going along the kitchen work surface.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've dreamt of doing that as a little kid, like with the tech even, you know, like.
Yeah, I love that so much, and it's just a shame that's just one level. And like there are differences, like one is like a garden, like there's one after the credits where there's like a big barbecue, and that seems to be like the thing. But you know, they do kind of blur into each other a little bit for me. I mean, they're all great individually, but I feel like they could have been like a garden level, a wood level, and then everything else like separate from that.
Yeah. Also, the beach level having the tide going in and out was quite cool, but like they could have done something like that on the other levels as well. Mm-hmm. To give you something that changes at midday or in the evening or something. Like, could you imagine if in the house one, when it gets to the red bit of the timer, they turn the lights off like they go to bed?
Yeah, that'd
be
so
funny.
good. And then like different
all of a sudden
things
it's
come
like,
out.
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be cool.
That'd be excellent. And speaking of all the treasure you grab, They kind of explain it that there's like an AI that kind of gives it name, or like they're working out what they're called. So they all have like funny names. And so it would be like a basic object, but then they have a weird description. And I actually wrote a little quiz for you. Bringing back the quiz. So basically I'm going to read out
quiz is coming back.
The description of items that the game gives. I want you to give me the real world item they are talking about.
Right. Well, I think I got almost all of them, so I should have seen.
Yeah. Your memory will help you. So maybe delay your answers to give people a chance to pause the podcast if they want to have a guess.
Okay.
And also, these are just like all quite funny ones that I kind of wanted to share anyway. So, okay, what is a sphere of fuzzy feelings?
Ooh, a sphere of fuzzy feelings. Could that be like a tennis ball?
It is a tennis ball. Very good. I know this one's probably my favourite one of the whole game. What is a face wrinkler?
Okay, I've got a pretty good guess. I'm giving people a chance to guess. I think it might be a lemon.
It is a lemon. What is a false lollipop?
Oh, that's... Everyone get your guesses in. That is a baby's dummy.
It is a baby's dummy or a pacifier. This one's maybe a little bit harder. What is a winged freedom sculpture?
Oh, I know what that one is. People get your guesses in. You might think it's an eagle, but it's not.
Yeah,
because it sounds like it might be. It's a wireless GameCube controller.
It is. Yes, correct. Well done. Two more. Sorry.
Oh yeah, okay. I was going to ask you about one, but you might ask me the question, so I'll just wait.
Okay. So next, what is a personal injury plank?
Oh, that's a skateboard.
It is a skateboard, another one of my favorites. Final one, what is a dimension converter?
Ooh, dimension converter. A dimension converter. I don't know what that one is. That could be lots of things. It could be a calculator. It could be a tape measure with different things on each side. I'm going to say calculator because I remember picking that up.
It's not, unfortunately, the only one you got wrong. It's 3D glasses.
I got those as well. I got them. There's one that's called like Buddy Creator or like It's called something like that. Do you remember what it's called?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is you're talking about.
It's a picture of two dogs.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. Oh, is it not like? Is it like Buddy Rememberer or some Buddy Displayer or something like that?
Buddy, I think it might be Buddy Displayer.
And they're like, I think they're like real dogs or like super realistic dogs, aren't they? It looks like the picture you get in a frame before you put your own picture in, like the artwork.
And the guy rings you up and he's like, they kind of look like Ochi, but kind of don't.
Yeah. So we should mention when we talk about our dog is he's only got like 2 legs and his tail turns into a leaf. Like they don't look very much like dogs, really.
It's weird as well because Ochi's really cute and Moss, the other dog, is not. And I don't know why, but the other one, like, he'd look at me and I'm like, that is horrible. Like, his eyes, like...
I think it's part of the look, but also just like the way whenever you see him in the game, he's like a foe. And so I think that's maybe part of it. I think if you'd spent your whole game with them, you'd end up falling in love with them. But I think it's like there's on the level we were talking about where you're going around inside the house, there's like another dog which is kind of hunting you down. And I think that was meant to be a mechanic to avoid it. But I mentioned to you, Ollie, like if you just like attack it and freeze it, like it just sleeps the whole rest of the level. And once again, if you charge all your Pikmin at it, it just destroys it straight away. And it's like no challenge. It's like it's weird. Like I feel like they were trying to add a twist, but once again they couldn't commit to making like any actual challenge like around it.
Yeah. Speaking of characters like Ochi and Moss, what did you think of Yoni?
Which one was Yoni?
He was the guy that sends you out at night.
I can't. The only one that really stood out to me was Colin, just because I loved his design so much.
Yeah, I liked his design as well.
Yeah,
my little character looked like Colin as well.
Mine was like bulbous. Like mine looked like a Wallace and Gromit character, like big cheeks and like a fin.
Oh, nice. I had the biggest head, a little bit of blue hair, and a blue mustache.
Lovely. Yeah, I can't really remember Yoni that well.
He is kind of like creepy, and I don't know if he's meant to be evil, but he always calls you New Blood.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, go on, New Blood. And he's like, hee, the enemies are coming. Like, and it's just like, I just didn't know if you'd going to say, oh, yeah, it turns out he's a bad guy.
No, that's not been revealed post credits, as far as I know. We'd have to. I've not read enough item descriptions to get the lore on Yoni yet. Let's talk about the night missions though, because you're kind of like I have a note about like the music for the night levels because it kind of sets up like a straight up like horror vibe, like when you're beginning, because it looks really realistic, the levels, and it's doing slow pans across it in the music, and then like the music when your base get attacked at night, like it's just full horror movie. Like you could put that in a horror movie. There's no like joyous Nintendo twist or anything. Like it is straight up that vibe. Obviously the game isn't like that scary, but it kind of changes up the gameplay. I wasn't the biggest fan. Like what did you think of the night level? Did you go out your way to do any?
I only did 3, and then it was kind of, they were the ones I only had to do. I didn't ask me to do any more than that. I like the idea on paper of the night levels. Like it changed up the gameplay. You go back to the areas you've already been to, but you have like a much more limited amount of Pikmin, and you're basically doing a horde or mercenaries type mode where you're protecting something called the luminol, which I found out is the liquid they use in crime scenes to find like fluid. That's called luminol. I don't know what the link is there. But,
Yoni, we're onto you, Yoni. The clues are lining up.
Yeah, so you have much less Pikmin. And you kind of defend your base, but again, it's just so easy. It's like all sounds really threatening, and then most of the enemies that I fought would die in a single hit, and then you get a couple of bosses in, and also they only last about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah,
but they were all like, difficulty level 1 because they're the first ones. But it
doesn't get any harder, to be honest. Like it will be like where there's more of the towers that you need to like the Lumi rolls you need to defend. But like they're often close enough together, it's not a problem. And like I had leveled up Ochi's like the damage he does from his charge attack. And like most enemies, like normally I'd be like, I'm going to charge into them and all my Pikmin will fling off and attack them. But most of them I'll just kill with just Ochi. And like, I really wish I was like, set a little line of Pikmin to defend here. And you do get like the ability to like tell Ochi to defend one base and then I'll go to another one and like things like that. But like it's all of these mechanics that I'm like, okay, these would be useful, but I just never found a use to do them. And I probably did maybe like 7 or 8 of them. So
wow,
maybe
okay.
it suddenly gets like more difficult after that. I kept waiting for it, but apart from the ability to send Ochi out, they never really did a big twist other than just send more enemies after you, really.
Yeah, fair. Also, the fact that the enemies only take like a couple of hits to kill meant that my co-op partner could just shoot them as soon as we saw them, and it would kill them, and I wouldn't need to.
I'm surprised of how much of a different experience co-op had for you. Like it's like the way you described it, it seemed like a bit of not like a throwaway mode, but like a the younger brother kind of mode.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Right?
Definitely. I don't think Bryony has the gaming know-how to play the normal game, but like. This is probably the most involved in a game she's been since she finished Disco Elysium. So, like, she was like, "Oh, like, can we play it?" Like, like all the time, and that. And she's not normally interested. So it's been really fun. It's been a really fun 2 weeks playing through it.
Yeah.
So, definitely very grateful for that co-op mode. I do think I was probably robbing myself of quite a lot of it, but it was more than made up for it by the fact that I was playing it with someone else. So
yeah, absolutely. And I will say, while I didn't play through with Kai, they watched me just a bit anyway and heard me. It's like something I haven't made clear yet. As I love this game, like I know that it might sound across negative. Like I was really hyped for this game, and so me just talking about the game a lot. Like Kai's now not bought it, but we got the cartridge. They're playing it, and they've actually decided to do a series on it. So Kai started. Episode 1 might not be out yet, so this might be breaking news. But I know they've recorded their first 3 episodes. Yeah, so they are getting into it, and they've also there's a squishy plushie that they brought out. Like their duck character, and then like because they ordered a bunch of them, they got like a load. They've ordered a bunch of little leaf clip things that they're going to put to them all to have in the background of the stream. I was like, that's such an adorable idea. I thought,
that's nice. That's nice. You should jump in and try co-op. Just give it just to see it, because it is quite cool. Like even as someone that's just shooting, it's pretty fun.
Yeah,
to like,
maybe I could recommend for one of their videos, say like, oh, one episode, I'll join you and do that, because they wouldn't want to join my game for spoilers. So maybe I could join them and I'll be the player too.
It's helpful for silly little things that you probably don't even consider, like you're not breaking eggs to get the nectar. Like co-op partner can just shoot them as you run past, and then you can pick them up on the way. The things that fly overhead, you can just shoot them down. Like it is good. It is good fun. I also have one part that I really liked, but I want to spoil it, but like people skip forward. I'll put a timestamp because it's a spoiler, but it was really cool, and it was the skip forward. It was the discotheque level.
Yes.
Oh my god, that boss fight.
Yeah,
was so brilliant. That was the best bit of the whole game.
I have a note. My note on it just says disco ball boss, and then in brackets foghorns, because it's like the music is so bad, and so it's like a disco ball on legs that you're fighting, and then like the Pikmin go crazy, and that is one of the times where you do have to kind of really time your attacks for when you can go and attack it. But the music's so like hyped up and extreme, and when it does attack, it does like the sort of foghorns you normally hear in like hip hop music. Like it's so funny.
Oh, it's so good. That was like because we were going down and it said like when you go down there, the note is like, oh, there's an old disco or something down here, and the Pikmin love it. And we're like going down. You go down like 5 floors. We're like, there's nothing in here. And then we got to that one and we were like, oh my god, like, this is amazing! Like running around. That one I really liked, and also the one where the like Mothra looking guy, you can turn to ice. And you have to throw the pine cones at it. Yeah, that was also pretty cool. That was another one that took a little bit more thinking. So, like, the best ones, they take a little bit more.
They're quite far between. I will say that with that disco ball boss, they did reuse it in a later level, but like reskinned as just like alien creature. And I was like fighting it with like basically the same mechanics as just a thing walking around the overworld. And also like I'm pretty sure it wasn't meant to. It started climbing over like areas I couldn't walk to, like weird rocks, and it looked a bit glitchy, and I was like, I had to wait for it to come back, and I was like, oh, I remember how much fun the first round of this boss was, wasn't it? I mean, this was after credits, where I guess it's too in-depth to be a bonus level, but like it is, it feels like you could have had a complete game when the credits rolled.
I don't know how I feel about, I don't know if I have finished it, but I feel like seeing the credits has kind of made me feel like I've seen enough. Like I loved it and had a really good time, but I don't really feel compelled to go back to it. Like maybe if Bryony wants to, I might, but I kind of feel like I've done it. Do you know what I mean?
There's not like a twist afterwards, a gameplay twist. It's like it's more of the same. Like it's like I liked getting onions for the Pikmin I didn't have before, and like, oh, I can print endless of, ice. Actually, not actually. I think I already got that, like rock ones or whatever it is. Like I could, like it was satisfying. Like, oh, those things that used to be precious, I can get a lot of. But like, I don't think I will finish it. I think I've seen most of the levels that I want to. Like I really had my graph is like really starting pretty low from like expectations, and then the opening of the game and a gradual rise, and then a peak when I was like, oh god, this is like fantastic. And then that was like basically peaked at the credits, and then it's kind of dipped, obviously not down to where it was at the beginning, where I was like, oh, this isn't holding my attention anymore. Like they're not adding enough new. Like the thing that was so super satisfying, which is just the core gameplay of load into a new area. I want to see everything. I want to collect everything. Like that is just so satisfying in itself. And I was like, oh, that's kind of run out of steam now. And they're not adding anything new to like change that up a little bit. There's like, oh, this level, there's more sprinklers now, or this level there's more fire. Like they haven't like they're not adding new mechanics at a pace to kind of keep that core fresh. But the core was so good and kept me so thoroughly entertained, up until the credits. Like that's fine. Like it's just, this is my point, I stop.
I do have one more negative as well, which is crazy because it's something that was in Pikmin 3 that I loved and I couldn't wait to do it again in this game, which is Pikmin 3 had first person. Like, so you could watch the Pikmin running around and like laying around and doing anything, and it was just like you could like stand in the middle of them as they're knocking a wall down, and that's like, because it used to use the Wii U gamepad, so you'd turn and they'd be like all around you smacking the walls down. And in this one, I don't think there is, or I never got first person, and that was like a massive disappointment for me.
Yeah, I never felt. I wonder if like the way the camera works with like the tilt shift effect. Like I wonder if there's even like a little bit of like, how Animal Crossing like kind of cheats the camera. I know obviously that's because it's a round one. I wonder if there's like a technical limitation, because that would be a strange thing to remove, without a reason behind it.
Yeah, true. Because I remember just like, I used to just look at them doing things because it was just so funny, like seeing a crowd of them, and some of them are just like laying on the ground. Like it was just great. Like I used to like take screenshots of them because it was so funny, and then in this one it's just gone. It's such a shame.
Do you have a favorite Pikmin?
We have some questions. Let me quickly ask them to you so we can use them. So it's Fame Time on YouTube asked, who is the cutest Pikmin?
Oh, the cutest ones are they? I think are they called Glow? The white ones, are they called Glow? Is that what they're called, Glow?
They're not called Glow, but I agree. I 100% agree with you.
What ones are they called? They're like the poisony.
They're
ones.
Like poison. Yeah, I don't know what they're actually called. Just white Pikmin.
Maybe they're
just
white. They're like white with like, but they're like eyes, are like one's bigger than the other.
Oh no, you're thinking of Glow.
Am I thinking of Glow? Maybe Glow. I'm mixing. Yeah. Let me. If I'm going to put my name to this, Pikmin. Maybe I am thinking of Glow Pikmin. Yes, I'm thinking of Glow Pikmin. Yeah, sorry, they're like lime green, not white. Yeah.
They kind of look like the Princess Mononoke ghosts. Yeah, they have that one eye bigger than the other. Yeah.
Let me look up white Pikmin as well. Yeah, I like the white Pikmin ones as well. Yeah, they're just called white Pikmin. Who are actually extreme. They got like big eyes. I think that big eyes is they're like white with like a pink flower as well. They are.
Well, they look like Pevensey. So we loved them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Your ferret.
Yeah. So ESH13663 on Twitter asked, which Pikmin was the most useful?
So I probably used most the red one, just because I had so many and I was not very precious about them. And also like, because you get the yellow one, I think, next, and the yellow ones aren't good at fighting. Like they're weaker at general attack, so I was like the red Pikmin were like my brutes, and then obviously the ice Pikmin were always nice to have, especially once I had enough of them, just because they're so useful for freezing. So probably red and ice. Yeah,
I'd agree. Also, they ask a lot of the red. There's a lot of fire traps, and especially in the part of the game that we played, like there's a lot of fire-based enemies. Like all in a row, pretty much all the way up to the credits, you're still doing fire things where like, oh, the ground's too hot to walk on it, or you've got to pick up a burning pine cone, and it was kind of like you always need reds.
Yeah, and that's what after the first level after credits is like all fire. There's the one that said it's like in a big barbecue in like the park or something, but it's all about burning away haystacks with like pine cones and stuff. Like that's the thing is fire as well. So that's not even like just the early levels. They're like it is nice that they all stay useful throughout the whole game, and it's not like, oh, you got like the strong one now, you don't need to use the other ones. I know there is the purple one which is stronger, but like you never get enough. Also, I upgraded Ochi so he could like carry like just ridiculous amount, like 100 worth of Pikmin strength. So he could like,
oh wow,
like there's a thing I carried that was needed 300 Pikmin, and with like some purple Pikmin and Ochi, I was able to carry it.
Nice. Yeah, the purple ones are cool. Also, throwing them and it makes the screen shake is quite cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Callie Ferguson on YouTube said, if you were a Pikmin, what special powers would you have and what would you look like?
I feel like we always get questions similar to this and we have to like...
It's a good question.
I know. So it just forces us to look deep in ourselves. So I'm thinking about not a power of me. I'm thinking as if there was a group of me. What would we? Yeah. What would our be able to do as a group? Do you have one ready so I can think?
Well, I just thought of it then. I think like I'm very organised, so maybe I could be like a delegating Pikmin, where like you give him 10 Pikmin, and then he kind of organises them for you and go and like does missions. I think that might be what my power would be. I mean, imagine if you had 20 of those. You give them all 2 Pikmin each, and then they could just run and you just stand at the thing and rub your hands together till they get back.
Then you go make a cup of tea. This sounds great. With the way they're gradually getting easier, that might be Pikmin 5 as they just add that in. That's what it will be. I think it's not really that related to me. Well, let's say I'm a team player. This is more just a thing that I think would be in the game. Is I want ones that like can create like, you know, like when ants create like bridges and stuff, or even if it's just to create like a wall, like we like all link arms. And that will stop an enemy coming through, or like water, or so. You know, we can make structures with our own bodies by linking up. I think that's like an obvious future.
They've not done that, have they?
No, it's in Tinykin, which actually I'm surprising hasn't come up at all yet, because that's a game that I loved, which is. There's obviously Pikmin inspiration there, and they have a move where they stack up like that. I think you hold right trigger, I can remember. I remember it being my most satisfying one. And they will stack up, but with you on the top, and it's basically like a little instant ladder or elevator more that you can create with them, and they're like, like climbing their way up, and that was I think cool.
Now you've played Pikmin, do you think that Tinykin and Pikmin are that alike?
They're less alike that I think I assumed they were more alike when I played it. Like there are similarities, especially in like you throw the Tinykin to carry the items back. Like that is the big core. But Tinykin's much more of like a collectathon platformer compared to Pikmin. They're less alike than I assumed, and I love both of them. But you know, they sit in different parts of my brain. Like I can't have as they're not as similar as Pikmin is to like Death Stranding, for example.
Yeah.
You know, like your comparison.
It is similar. It's so similar.
Yeah, can that be, our little in the thumbnail for the video we do like a little like tag like line, little note. Is it like, is Pikmin 4 the new Death Stranding? Is that
we're just gonna
the question everyone's thinking?
We're gonna write Dandori Stranding. That's gonna be the
and everyone will know what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. One more question we have here from Mario on YouTube. Says, do you think this gives hope to other series that haven't been given sequels in years? If so, what games would you like to see continued? And I'm assuming they mean Nintendo franchises. Yeah,
I mean, I think, like as I said, like the Switch is kind of elevating everything, and this is, it's like I always think that like we was going about it, but like Game Pass is great for a lot of games because you have a guaranteed audience that are going to give it a chance, and that is sometimes just enough to then start the ball rolling and spread the word. And I think Switch is the same thing. Like the Switch is so big, like, oh, if only like 2% of Switch owners buy it, brilliant, you've sold like 5 million copies. Congratulations. That's incredible. And so I think that obviously the other kind of somewhat neglected notable franchises, Metroid is obviously another big one. Obviously we've talked about Earthbound would obviously be another big one as well. And Metroid's coming back. And I think
we got Metroid Dread just recently too.
Yeah, but that was on Switch, right? That's like the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought you were saying we hadn't had one. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. But we had a long gap kind of before that. I know there was that 3DS one, but the remake of 2, I think that was. And then obviously now Metroid Prime is coming back with the new one. Like that's another. I think any Metroid fan would agree an underserved franchise along with Pikmin that is now.
Yeah.
I think the Switch it's gonna if it isn't successful on the Switch, like it isn't going to be like this is as long as the game isn't awful. I think obviously Earthbound is another obvious one. Can you think of a big one I'm missing that needs the Pikmin 4 treatment?
Yeah, I feel like Nintendo are really reinventing a lot of their games this gen, and like all of them, as far as I can see, have been successful. Like good reinventions. The one that I'd want is F-Zero. Like what they could do with F-Zero outside of it just being racing. Because they did toy with the idea a bit. Because did you ever play F-Zero?
I played like in a collection thing. I never played it back in the day.
Okay, so it's basically like, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like what anyone doesn't know, it's like Wipeout, as if you're gonna know what that is. It's a spaceship flying game. It's pretty. I don't really know how to say. Like it's pretty normal. There's no weapons. There's nothing like that. You just kind of fly around the track. It's really fast.
Is like its thing.
It's really fast. Really quick. That's its thing. But the Game Boy Advance version, they added a story mode, and they had things like, oh, you got to drive this bomb out of the city before it goes off, and they added stuff like that on top of the racing. So like, I'd like to see that come back and have a few more things, because F-Zero is also like a really cool franchise, and Captain Falcon has stayed reasonably popular thanks to Smash Brothers. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm always this guy. It's gonna be like Jet Set Radio again. I'm the guy in the suit, but it's like you're sitting around the table and it's like we're gonna put our money into this, whereas that money could be put into a new Mario Kart. And
I know. I'm just dreaming.
I know, but like I'm saying that is probably why. You know what? Another one which is kind of crazy that I think is underserved is Donkey Kong. Yeah. Like when was the last Donkey Kong? That's like Wii U, right? Like
they remade the Wii U one for Switch.
Well, yeah, I mean remade, like ported basically.
They ported it. Yeah. Those are good games. Donkey Konga, though, that was cool. With the bongos, you play that?
Yeah, I played that with you.
With the bongos.
I remember you had that, didn't you?
Yeah,
you love that.
Any game that's got a weird controller, I'm like, yep.
Yeah,
I'll buy that.
Excellent question, though. Anyone in the comments, like, we're probably missing a glaring one. Let us know. Like, what should they? Where's Arms 2? Let us know. What are we? What are we missing?
Oh my god, I loved Arms. Do you remember how much I loved Arms when it came out?
I mean, Arms is Switch, so I think that's a bit like different. I mean, they brought back Wii Sports, like that's done, or Switch Sports now. Like, I feel like they've ticked off the obvious ones.
There's a few more. Star Fox.
Yeah, I guess that was Wii U though, the last one. So it's not.
Yeah, but it was terrible. That was so bad. That one.
Yeah,
it was so bad. Wave Race, which makes a cameo in Pikmin, funnily enough.
Yeah, I never really played those. Like, I mean, is that enough to have a splash these days?
Yeah. They're pretty fun. Pilot Wings.
Yeah,
pretty good. That was another game that was like, oh, you can test out flying planes, like in the story mode, and the final level was like, your pilot teacher's been kidnapped by terrorists. And you got to like go and say, and it's like, oh, what's happening?
It actually reminds me a bit of Driver San Francisco, where it's like it's a racing game, but then it's like also everything else.
Yeah, so Nintendo are good at doing that though. They could probably have a punt at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe we should go to the list. Unless you got anything else?
Yeah, if there's no more questions that we haven't answered in our normal discussion.
Muppet on the Discord asked a question about legendary abilities, but I cut the question short because of spoilers. Did you get any?
I didn't know they were a thing, unless I had them and didn't know they were legendary. Okay, spoilers.
Then let's leave it at that. Yeah.
So one last thing. It's kind of relevant. It's the sort of stuff I'd normally say on the list, but for video viewers, I might as well do it with beautiful gameplay up rather than our document. Yeah. So I think like we've said a lot of like individual things on this game about like what we've liked and what we haven't liked, but I think the thing that's kind of hard to express is just how like the level of quality in every regard. Like this is such an extremely polished game, and there was one little moment where I was like, that was amazing, that I think is a good way to sum up the quality, if you imagine this sort of quality spread out. And like, so the intro, when you load up the game, the title screen, and it's showing like one of the levels and it's panning across, there's like really nice like piano music, and it's just amazing anyway. And it's not in engine, it's like a pre-rendered thing, so it looks even better than the game. And then the first time I loaded it up and it started that title, and then it zoomed out, and actually that screen was a TV screen set in the house of a different level, and then it zoomed out, and then it plays like a little skit, and I stayed watching it for like ages, and it's like, oh, Ochi's sleeping, and then the Pikmin are wandering past, and an enemy shows up, and Ochi chases them off, and like the music, and like the little like bait and switch that they do from like what happened earlier, I don't know if it got triggered because I'd got to that level, and I was like they've, like most games put like a logo in the background and like maybe some theme music and like the menu, and I'm like, they've put so much care into every tiny detail, and just the soundtrack, I mentioned it before, it's like, it's not like what you expect. It doesn't sound like a Nintendo video game soundtrack, it doesn't sound like a Mario game, it sounds like a film score. It's so epic, like and like the credit music, and then it went through the credits, and at the end it's also saying like, and also thanking you, and like says like your name, and like I was just like I got like, I think I got like genuinely like a bit emotional. Like there's like on every single regard, like it feels like they made the smart decision, and anything that like time that feels like they could have cut corners, they're like, no, we will do this properly at every single bit, and like that makes a difference. And that's not something that every developer can do, because it's a relatively contained game mechanically, in terms of, you know, the fact that, you know, you can have a limited jump and stuff, but like from the rather simple core mechanic to, you kind of like just got to get everything to a very high level to get the game as engaging and as fun as it is. And I think that's what kind of put this game above a lot of other games. And I feel like there could be indie game imitators that like mechanically could be more interesting, and they could add the stuff we're talking about and have better boss fights and more varied Pikmin and have it more challenging. But I feel like it's very hard for anyone other than Nintendo or people with Nintendo's expertise and budget to be able to make a complete package like Pikmin 4. And I think that's why it will hopefully perform like it does on the list.
Yeah. Okay, well, in that case, then, we do have one more question.
Oh, brilliant.
From friend of the show, Mocha, who helped us out with our Wii Classic Console video.
Yes.
Huge Pikmin fan. Their question was just, do you get it?
Yes, I think hopefully my speech gave it away. I get it now. I was not a believer. Pikmin 4 has converted me. I will be a day one buy of Pikmin 5 if that day ever comes.
There you go. I actually think this game was in development since, like, I seem to remember Miyamoto being like, oh yeah, it's reaching its final stage of development in like 2016 or something.
Yeah.
I remember reading that and being like, oh, Pikmin 4 must be coming soon, and then I guess they were just polishing it this whole time.
Yeah, well, you know, it's that famous story of like Tears of the Kingdom, where like the game was done a year before it was released, and then they were just like perfecting it. Like this feels like, you know, it was finished 3 years ago, and they were just adding tiny details and quirks and little unique animations and musical cues just to like elevate it like that. It really feels like that, and it runs so perfectly. It looks so amazing. Like it's it's hard to call anything flawless, but it doesn't feel like they failed at anything they attempted. Like you either liked what they attempted or you didn't, but like their vision feels realized. I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure there was stuff they had to cut, but like from playing the game, like that's the experience, and that's the impression I got.
Did you, just before we do go to the list, did you make a note of how many Pikmin you lost?
I did not, but I can put it up on screen for the video version, because I think it comes up at the end.
It does, yeah. So I propagated 1,200 and I lost 190. Because I didn't rewind. My fallen soldiers.
Okay, very quickly before we do the list, here is my stat screen for those watching the video version. So I had 0 seconds of 2-player time, but I took just under 20 hours to reach credits. Is that similar to you?
Yeah. 14 hours for me, but 10 hours of co-op.
I basically 100%. Like there's some levels I 99%ed, and I just didn't care enough to. I know most people that would have driven them crazy. I didn't care, but I basically 100%ed every level up to the credits.
I tried to go up to about 80%, and then when I was around that number, I was like, okay, I'm going to move on.
Okay, so that explains kind of, I guess, like that extra 5 hours then. And then I had 10,046 remaining. 1,046 remaining, and then I lost 297.
So you lost 100 more than me, and you rewinded.
And I wonder if whether that it includes that in the stat. It's just maybe it just counts when they die.
No, it just counts when they. If you rewinded, it wouldn't count. Otherwise, there'd be no point doing it, would there? Because people would want to rewind so they had 0.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe like the stat tracker is just triggered when they die, and it's like, like when you've failed. I don't know. I'm just trying to justify it for myself. I'm not bad, I promise. Yeah, maybe my strategy of just charging into everyone wasn't so good. I'm not saying the game's too easy, and I nearly had 300 Pikmin die.
No, I think it's all right. Like they're ammo at the end of the day.
Yeah,
they're ammo.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the game, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah. Also, the fact that my 1 strength Pikmin co-op partner was invincible probably helped quite a lot.
Yeah. I and 0 points struggled. But as I said, sometimes they were going back, or like I would kind of rush things because there wasn't like if a few Pikmin died, as you say, it doesn't really matter. As evil as it sounds.
Yeah, it is evil, but they do my bidding willingly.
Let's not get into an ethics debate over over Pikmin.
Brian, it's actually funny. At the end when we fly away, Bridie was like, "Why are we not taking the Pikmin with us?" And I was like, this would be a very different game if we took the Pikmin with us at the end, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Very different vibe.
I didn't realise we haven't discussed story at all, which made me think of that, but it's sort of like they have a gameplay idea, you do the gameplay idea, and they fit a bit of story around it to loosely justify, but you could ask a lot of questions of why doesn't, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for collecting shiny treasure and playing with our Pikmin.
Indeed. So Pikmin 4 is ready to go on the list, but is there any movement on...
Yeah, I feel like you would want to start this discussion. So we did a bonus podcast last week, if you haven't heard it. Basically, it's us rearranging the games from our existing list, but just doing our own personal top 10s where, we don't have to debate or anything. And in that list, my... Spoilers for that podcast. Go listen to it if you don't want to know, but my list, it turns out, is my top 10 is exactly the same. I just rearranged them. Like there's no dropouts or ones that add. Ollie's goes a little bit wild, so I guess this will be your chance if you want to try and make any movement here.
I would just suggest that maybe Killer 7 should join Jet Set Radio.
I did say they belong together.
Exactly, and they'll be in the top 20 then.
Okay, can Killer 7 go above it? Can it be that way around?
Of course. So the Killer 7's now in 17.
Yeah, so Killer 7's just jumped above Skyrim. Sorry, Skyrim fans. We saw also in a lot of your messages your personal picks, and Skyrim jumps a lot for a lot of people. Super Metroid, Driver San Francisco, Resident Evil, The Forgotten City, Mr. Driller, and Ooblet. So Killer 7's just leapfrogged all of them. Oh, and League of Legends
it's done 9
as well.
Jumped up 9 places.
Yeah, that is
good on it.
That's the easiest argument you've ever had to make, but it was just in that video I did feel kind of bad at how tough times have been for you.
Yeah, it have been hard. For people that like artistic games, are games that are not mainstream, Joe, I know you can't handle it. Ignore me. I joked in the Discord, I said that I like games that have like artistic meaning and you like games that have camera controls. That's how we rank them.
You like games that have artistic meanings. I like games where I can see the artistry and I'm not a wall. It's like, I bet this game's beautiful. I wish I could see it.
Camera slide looking down.
Oh,
okay, I'm happy with that.
One other thing.
And it's 17, that makes sense.
Just having a look.
Yeah.
Does Rogue look a little bit low? Like I know what it was like to play. So we got the bottom of the list is we got Enslaved at 41, and then underneath that, Harry Potter and Chamber of the Secrets, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, Rogue, and then Beyond Good and Evil. I feel like maybe
Rogue's
Rogue
better than Enslaved.
Yeah, Rogue was so tough. Lovely camera controls. You could always see what you were doing. I just feel like it's because it's so much older, but it was so innovative in its day, and then it's going up against Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. I think we maybe need to bear a little bit more in mind of when it was released, and then then it's kind of not a competition. Just at least to get it over the barrel bottomers.
I think it could go to above Enslaved, yeah?
Yeah, we can't put it above World of Warcraft, I don't think, because
Enslaved was
one.
Enslaved, we were literally laughing at it.
Yeah,
and it was trying to be sincere, and that was the worst thing you could imagine. Making something like that. So
Yeah.
I think
and
Rogue
roguelike created a genre. Like it is.
Yeah.
Okay, that looks a little bit
just
nicer
like
now.
Resident Evil did, but don't worry about that. Down
No,
in 23.
that's another day. That's enough. That's enough movement outside of Pikmin 4. So the big thing now is, where does Pikmin 4 end up on the list? Do you have an idea for an area?
I don't, but I feel like the fact that it was really easy damaged it more for me than it did for you. My opinion of it is like, would I check out Pikmin 5? I don't know if I would. I loved Pikmin 4, but I feel like I've had enough of it because it was so easy. And if someone said, here's another one with another 6 levels, I don't know if I'd take it.
Like, I've had enough of Pikmin 4. Like, I said that. Like, I got to the point where I was like, yeah, it's not doing anything new. But you got to remember, like, Pikmin 3 didn't have, like, Ochi or, like, a bunch of, like, the new mechanics that this had, or, like, the pull-down camera. Like, I would assume Pikmin 5 would be, you know, a similar leap forward, so I would be interested. And, you know, I am done with Pikmin 4, but there's more there. But the fun, like, my peak of it was very, very high, and it was a long enough game that my peak of it was, you know, about as long as some of the other games on the list.
I mean, what I'm saying, I'm thinking like 11 to 20. I'm not thinking like low. Okay. I'm also not thinking top 10.
I'm not thinking top 10. Shall I go first?
Yeah, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Why don't you just speak plainly?
Okay, I'll go. Well,
we're like being coy.
You sound like I didn't know. So you often have more of a nice, firm idea of a place. It seems like you don't as much here. I'm thinking maybe at around 14, which would be one under Earthbound, one above Yoshi's Island.
You're keeping all the Nintendo games together.
I am actually. Yeah, I didn't realise that.
I'd probably put it above Earthbound.
Oh, really?
I think above Earthbound, under Undertale. Yeah. I think it was more. I had much more fun with it.
I mean, gameplay-wise, it's not a competition, but Earthbound was like just such like a unique gem. You know, like you would absolutely check out a new Earthbound. And like Pikmin 4 is a thing. Sorry, I've been cutting you off. You go.
No, the vibes of Earthbound were really good, but also they were in Pikmin 2, so.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
Carried me through, yeah.
A game like Pikmin 4 will exist again from Nintendo. Like that level of polish, everything I talked about, that amazing music, like that's what Nintendo do pretty consistently. Like they don't do games like Earthbound. They probably never will do a game of a similar tone to Earthbound with that sort of presentation. Like I feel like I'm representing the unique people and you're representing the normies now, where like Earthbound is like a kind of a one of a kind. Obviously, you know, you can look at Mother and stuff, or Mother 3 in its series, you know, but yeah. I feel like Pikmin 4 is just an amazing thing that Nintendo does, and it's done especially well here. Whereas I feel like Earthbound has that special something.
I think they're much the same, to be honest. There's only 4 Pikmin games. Well, there's 6, but one of them's a walking simulator and one of them's 2D. There's only 4, and there's 3 Earthbound games.
Yeah, when was the last Earthbound game?
Yeah, true. Probably not that long before.
Yeah. And where was it released? Like which countries? Like yeah, I mean, I don't think you could say they're like similar like franchises.
Yeah, true. Okay, it can go below Earthbound. That's fine by me. It's only one place, right? Yeah, it's only one place.
Okay, we can talk about it again maybe later if, you know, maybe I'm still in recency bias of... Actually, no, I'm not, because I want Earthbound above it. So I guess maybe you're in recency bias of Pikmin 4.
Maybe Earthbound might be one of those games, though, that the further away we get from it, the better it gets.
I think it will. I think because we'll forget some of like the repetitiveness of the combat and some of the downsides of the level design. I think Earthbound is absolutely one of those. And then I think the reason why so many people love it is either they have those memories, or when they replay it, they know how to get around that stuff and to expect it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why people that repeat play it kind of hold it more fondly and might forget what it's like to play it for the first time. You know, I always think like Dark Souls is another one like that, is like you forget how impenetrable it can be to begin with, and then on repeat playthroughs you're like, oh yeah, it's not that obscure, like of course that's what this means. Like I looked it up 5 years ago, of course I know.
So it's in.
Yeah, number 14 on the list. So one above Yoshi's Island, one under Earthbound. For the video version, we got to add like a little Nintendo logo, like brought to you by Nintendo, or like Nintendo's like their quality seal, like
this quality seal. I was thinking that. Yeah, the little gold stamp.
Yeah, have that for that area.
Yeah, nicely done. It's a shame that Killer 7's now off 17 because I was like, oh, that's quite nice. 7. But I suppose it was always going to get knocked down, right?
Well, maybe you'll eventually argue it up to 7, which is where Prey is. Also, with that, where people were doing their own lists, Prey did pretty well. It was pretty high up just for all of the times when people come on or you try and say why is Prey in top 10. It actually is quite a lot lower than a lot of our community had. So thanks for having my back, guys. I wonder how many of that came from me and people checking it out, and how many people had played it anyway.
Well, if you'd like to be part of that top 10 list making, you can join our Discord over at patreon.com/the bonus points. Lots of lovely people in there. So you should come over and say hi. And you can even join for free using the free trial. It does only last a week.
Yeah, but you can check it out and listen to all of our extra credit podcasts, which are our bonus podcasts, in which our next one, we will probably be discussing all of those lists made by the community. And we'll basically be giving our opinion on our community as people and judging them for their decisions, and see what weird games have ended up in top 10 and what travesties of top 10 games have been kicked out.
Yeah, I think that sounds normal and fair and fine. I think we should do that.
Our one-sided judgment of our community.
Let me quickly run down what's going on now between 11 and 20, because there has been some moves. So number 11, we got Half-Life Alyx. Number 12, we have Undertale. 13 is Earthbound. 14 is Pikmin 4. 15 is Yoshi's Island. 16 is Subterra. 17 is What Remains of Edith Finch. 18 is Killer 7. And 19 is Jet Set Radio Future. And Ooblets is now in 20, which means Mr. Driller has unfortunately been knocked out the top 20, no. But I can't win them all, can I? So
you're your own worst enemy. It's like your Pikmin. You can't save them all. You got to pick your favourites. I just thought, do you know where the name Pikmin comes from or anything? Did you do any research or find out about that?
So, Evan Hariardi, our friend, who always writes backstage stuff, has written the word Pikmin comes from the word Ipiki, which Nintendo used to count the Pikmin during the development of the original Pikmin 1. This eventually became Picky, then Picky, and finally Pikmin. So I guess it's the fact that they pick things up.
Okay.
Is where it comes from. And also, I'm going to paraphrase the rest of your comment because it is interesting, but it's also really long. It actually started off as a game where you just watch life. There was no gameplay element. You just watch things, but I guess kind of makes sense from the pan-overs and things like that you see in the game.
Well, with how easy it's getting, it feels like we're getting back to that, eh? Hey, guys, eh?
I completed it on YouTube, mate. Right. The original prototype of Pikmin simply featured two primitive life forms named Adam and Eve living their life with the ability to fight dinosaurs that would then allow expansion of their village if successful. And then basically they added the little astronaut as like an interesting cursor, a bit like how humanity added the dog. Not humanity. Sorry, I just realised how weird that probably sounds. Humanity, the game, added the dog as a cursor, not like humanity as a whole. So that's basically where it came from.
I'd love to see that. Like, how much would you pay to play that demo of that first Pikmin game when you're just watching Adam and Eve?
I read that comment. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving all over the place. Sorry, audio listeners. I read that comment and I was like, everyone says Miyamoto's a genius, but like, how many games does he make that we just don't see?
Yeah.
For like every 100 that he makes, we might see one. It's like, otherwise, like, you watch nature and that's it.
Yeah. And then everyone's like, okay. And then like all the other people are like, we need to make this into a good game, but make sure Miyamoto doesn't realize we've changed his idea. And then, do you think he comes back in 3 years and it's completely different? He's like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I meant. This is great. Yeah, exactly.
Didn't they say that about Tears of the Kingdom, that he was like really against having any story?
Yeah,
and they were like having to keep sneaking it in.
Yeah, throughout history, like famously throughout a lot of games, he would be really pushing back on kind of having story. Because, you know, he didn't kind of think that was needed or essential. Like, that's kind of a known thing through many projects. They had to kind of sneak as much story into games as they could.
Yeah, fair. And also, did you see that Charles Martinet is not the voice of Mario anymore?
Oh, really? Has he retired?
Yeah, I think he's retired. They haven't really said what happened. They put out a really nice message about it, and they were like, he's our Nintendo ambassador now, and he's going to go and do events and like be Mario, but he's not voicing Mario in the games anymore. That's because I'm the voice of Mario. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if that's how the news drops? No, I don't know where he is.
I'd rather you over Chris Pratt.
yeah, Chris Pratt's probably doing it.
Oh my God, they wouldn't, would they? They wouldn't just be like, this is like, because the film was a hit, this is just conical Mario now. They would not, they wouldn't.
People think that Mario Wonder trailer and the new not Game & WarioWare that uses a new voice. People suspected that, and now they're like, oh, it probably does. So
yeah, I bet you won't really tell. I bet like there's plenty of people that can do that voice now.
Yeah, definitely. Would you like to hear what's coming up?
I would love to hear.
Well, next time, mate, we have Alan Wake. And again, that's without a guest. It's just boy time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Just the bonus bros.
Just the boys, the bonus bros. And then after that, we have XCOM 2 with a guest on the 22nd of September. Then after that, we have Slay the Spire on the 6th of October. That's just us. And then Alien Isolation on the 20th of October with a guest. So there you go.
Okay, and that's I think that's where we're just up to among ourselves as well. Sometimes we are a little bit further, or are we a bit further?
Well, we have a guest, but they haven't told us what game they're playing.
Yeah. We don't know what game.
If you're watching, tell us what game it is.
Yeah, we need to know. It's like 3 months away.
I like to watch for sales. That's what I like to do. I wish list it and I'll wait for it to come up.
Okay, maybe I'll give them a little cheeky poke and and ask them. But anyway, that's I think everything we have to announce or say, unless I'm forgetting anything.
That's it. Just thanks for watching, everyone. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Yep, we'll see you back here in 2 weeks with Alan Wake. We are doing the remastered version, but I don't think it's majorly changed. So if you already own the older version, feel free to play along. We'll be doing that just before the sequel, which has been delayed slightly, but not very much. But it kind of gives you more time to finish the first one, so no worries there. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this one to its conclusion, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Cheers, bye.